there wasn't maybe a financial aspect to changing the meta, in the physical aspect of Magic the Gathering. Maybe there is, maybe I'm wrong. You can, school me on that, but I'm so interested in this gameplay that you're making where a player can have at one point a really valuable card, right? That can help them win games and maybe even more, cash, what have you. And then you guys change the meta and maybe that's worth 50% now. How do you view changing the meta with this financialization aspect built in?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of question / dilemma / whatever. I mean, the one thing that in my mind we always strive to do is rather than nerf cards, we want to buff other cards because by their nature, when you make something weaker, it feels much worse than making something else stronger, So that's one of the things that we always want to look at. But of course, there'll always be nerfs. Now, in the case of Magic the Gathering, because it's a paper game as well as a digital game, they don't do a lot of nerfing. What they'll do is just ban certain cards outright. We won't do that, but we'll have to sort of digitally adjust the cards. Now, as far as like the financial element is concerned, there's two things I'll say to that. One is that I think that anyone who enters into it from a financial perspective as opposed to a gaming perspective just needs to be super aware that this is a possibility. It's not, and I'll say it to anyone who will listen. Like, you just, as with any NFT, let's forget about the games entirely. Like, a lot of it is based on not just the rarity of it, but the desirability of it, right? Like the liquidity. How badly do people want this thing? And if that sort of dries up, like, you can't blame the people. You just have to enter into it with the mindset of knowing, like, here are the possibilities of what I'm doing. Right. And so I think it's important for everyone to know that, like, cards have the possibility of getting nerfed. So, like, if that's going to be a problem for you, maybe don't spend your life savings on parallel cards. One,
it's not a frozen state, essentially.
Right. But the second thing I will say is that, like, my goal is to communicate any changes that we plan to make far enough in advance so that people can adjust accordingly. Now, some people might say, okay, well, as soon as you make that announcement, that the price of that card is going to tank. But if it's still useful, like, let's just say it is a broken card that is destroying the meta, okay, and we have to nerf it. If I give you enough time ahead of time, like, isn't it maybe worth it for a industrious player to see, okay, some people are dumping this card. What if I buy it up right now and I know that I'm a good player, so I'm just gonna, like, destroy with it while it's still broken to earn whatever I can earn and then dump it later, right? Like,
yeah,
there's some balance there to be had. So I think that is interesting and not something that we'll have had seen in the past, right? Because none of these games, Magic or whatever, are directly play to earn in that way. So I think it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, I don't know the answer. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't predict what's going to happen, and nor do I really want to comment on the secondary market prices of the cards to begin with, because, like, we have no control over it. Yeah, I mean, you can argue we have control over buffing and nerfing cards and whatever, but that's in service of the game. Like, my goal is to make a fun, good, unbroken game, and what impact that has on the secondary market is less of a concern to me, because at the end of the day, if the game sucks, then the secondary market's going to be worthless anyway. Right. So I think it's probably best for me to just focus on making sure the game is as good as it can be.